Today's guest is a surf casting legend, and he's guided the Montauk surf for over 25 years. His super informative YouTube channel has over 5,000 subscribers and is loaded with tackle tips, lure modifications, and a really interesting look at his surf bag by season. His website, Surf Rats Ball, covers everything striped bass and includes his fishing logs going back to 2002. Not surprisingly, his live social posts that he records driving home after a night in the Montauk surf are a masterclass in the thought process of what makes great anglers great. Traits like focus, observation, and a deep understanding of the seasonal bait migrations and more. You should also know that today's guest has hosted the Surf Rats Surf Fishing Tournament on both coasts of the United States for over a decade. He's donated 100% of the proceeds to Kids Need More, a nonprofit that is dedicated to enhancing the lives of children and their families who are coping with cancer and other life-threatening diseases. This is an awesome display of compassion and commitment. Today's guest is one of the most requested anglers that the Saltwater Edge Podcast listeners have ever asked for. I'm really happy and excited that Bill Wetzel of Surfcasters Ball can join us on the Saltwater Edge Podcast. Welcome, Bill.
Wow, what an introduction there, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for joining us. You know, you're pretty special. And like I said, you're one of the most requested guests ever. And it took us a while to get together. I went to Connecticut specifically to reconnect with you. It'd been a couple of years between, I don't know, Striper Day and Surf Day and all the places along the way we'd see each other. It'd been a while. So it was great to connect with you in Connecticut. And Connecticut Surfcasters, a great club. And you did a great job that night in a difficult situation.
Without my computer, without any displays.
Yeah, no slides. And it was... But you handed out this map of Montauk that I thought was super helpful. And between the map and I think you really defaulted to using the bait calendar as a way to bring some order to your talk, right? And
I have no idea. I just completely winged it, man. I just went for it.
You did, man. You crushed. It was great. I have a whole page of notes on the back too.
Wow.
So, good stuff.
Somebody's listening. I can't believe it.
Well, I thought we might start there. It really seems like you dialed in the baits by season, and it's reflected in what's in your surf bag and maybe in the locations you choose to go. And I was just curious, could you sort of talk through the bait calendar? Would that be a good way to kind of discuss a Montauk season?
Well, Montauk season, yeah, but that's a long conversation. But it's important for people to understand that, if they're going to fish their area, it's not Montauk. There's different migrations throughout the East Coast, West Coast. Your migrations are not our migrations. Right. But two of the main migrations I would say is probably one of the big ones is the juvenile weakfish. If people had a map of Montauk, they kind of know what I'm talking about. But the juvenile weakfish, they come out of the Peconics in Montauk Bay, and they move from west to east. And that usually occurs either the last moon of September or the first moon of October. And sometimes it occurs the second moon of October. For whatever reason, it's usually on a full moon. A lot of times, sometimes it's on the new moon, but my experience is usually whatever the full moon is during that time, it's usually when it's going to happen. And the last 2 years or 3 years, maybe, I think it was October. And so they migrate from west to east on one of those moons. And when they come in, it's just, it's lights out. Darters are very good. Bottle plugs are very good, depending on the wind. If you got a 30-knot wind in your face, you're not going to throw a darter. You're going to throw that bottle plug. Or even bucktails, like on a full moon night. Bucktails, one hook, boom, boom, boom. One hook, you take it off. One hook, you take it off. It can be literally, if you get into that bite, it can be one fish after another. And they're not going to hit everything. It's not like just stupid fishing. They're not going to hit everything.
I saw you started your season a couple years ago. This is one of the YouTube videos you did, and it was a light bucktail, and it was because you could reel it slowly, right? And you might have wanted to do something heavier, but you were going to hang up if you fished it at the speed you wanted to fish. So you balance the two, right?
Well, I was probably talking about the water temperatures, like when,
right, cold. Cold
yeah,
is
when it's cold. I mean,
yeah.
fish are cold blooded, so their body temperatures are whatever the water temperature is. So when it's colder, you got to go slower.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if I'm throwing like 1.5 ounces bucktail, say, and I'm going over rocks, you got to realize it's not rocks and no current, it's rocks and water. So you're just kind of going with the current and with the water. And say I have to go like this to keep it from snagging up,
Mm-hmm.
with 1.5 ounces, where 3/4 ounce, I can just slow roll it and have that thing bounce right along off the rocks, going from rock to rock, mm-hmm. and going in between the rocks, so, a lot of times, I'll go lighter just so I can go slower in the rocks, and if you're fishing sand beaches, obviously you could throw whatever almost and just drag it along the bottom if you want.
But that bucktail also is that combination of some side pressure as well, right? I mean, that's what's making it swim, right? It's not a direct retrieve. There's some
the current's coming over here, and your bucktail, and you're just going like this with your bucktail, doom, and just lightly hopping it, just like, it's not like that or like this. It's just
big jig,
light. People say, the bucktail is so complicated. Oh, it's the easiest thing. It's basically a casting fly, and you just adjust your weights to whatever you're fishing, or profiles. I mean, you can cut. I have a bucktail here. I mean, you can cut it if you cut it, you don't want to cut it on the end. Like, I have a freaking bucktail. I must have a bucktail.
You must have a bucktail. I've seen that place.
Oh, here.
It's shit everywhere.
So say this is a bucktail.
Yeah.
So if you just cut it here, that's not what you want to do, because you're just going to get a chop look. Mm-hmm. If you're in the field and you want to decrease your profile, make it skinnier, what I do is I cut along here. So cut along, just trim it up along there. You know what I mean? So then you get that, if I take off this, then, I just have that. I have a way skinnier profile.
Yeah, you still.
But if I just chop it off, it's just going to be freaking chopped off. It won't look right.
Sure.
You like that plug, don't you?
Yes.
That's a Donnie Musso right there.
There you go. Wow. Wow. Front.
Lipless swimmer.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the other baits you mentioned these are from my notes, was that low and slow on the lethargic early season bass, before there's really many schooling baits around. But then you talked later in the year, two of the big ones were, I think, the spearing and was it maybe baby bunker? But spearing is an important bait. And
spearing is there throughout the year,
right?
So pretty much.
Yeah, because it's interesting to me. I see them in our water, but they seem to go away. In other words, what I've read about them, what I understand, I'm really curious what your take is. Maybe waves and weather put them on the beach, but a lot of times they'll stage under the surface, a couple feet down in a ball, but offshore a little bit, not way off, but they have to come in. Versus some days during the day, you might see them on high tide along a rocky beach. Do they go in and out with the tide, or do they, in your experience, do they migrate along the shore close, or is it where your lures are landing?
Here's what's interesting, I find, with, say, the spearing bite. Usually they're in tight, they're in the rocks, they're in tight. There's a couple of interesting things. So say you have a reef. This is a reef. Between my two hands is a reef, and each side of my two hands is a cove, right? So if you're in the middle of the reef, right in the middle, you don't have a big current, but on both sides, the current's going this way. It's going that way.
Going off the reef.
Right. So what you'll find in the middle of the reef, you'll find heavy concentrations there, because I guess because they don't want to get flushed out, but they're still getting flushed out eventually. So they're going to get flushed out. So, and what's interesting as well is I find that they'll come in. It's almost like fishing for striped bass. I mean, the spearing will come in on certain tides. You'll be there and it's high incoming. just for example, and you'll notice, wow, there's freaking spearing everywhere. So it's a high end, and you'll get out there and you'll get into a bite, and then it might be snappers that are on the spearing, and the snappers are there because the spearing are there, or it might just be spearing, but whatever, the spearing are there. But then it comes slack, and then it starts going out, and then the bite just freaking dies. So you're like, what the hell? And you're going, and you walk back and you shine your light in the water where the spearing were, and now there's none. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
no, exactly. That's my
they're
experience.
coming on tides. I mean,
Yeah.
they're definitely they're like any fish. They're coming in on whatever tide they want to come in on.
That's interesting, because I mean that explains a chunk of my experience, where they seem to be everywhere, and then not much time passes and they're hard to find. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I got curious and I read, and it ended up that they say often that these silver sides, which there's like 7 types or whatever, but will school up in deeper water, and they'll spread out in shallower water. You know what I mean? And that's why we kind of see them everywhere. But it's a great bait.
Yeah.
And
I find most of the spearing coming in, and the biggest spearing run is, I mean, if you go in the backwater, I think I said this at that little lecture I did.
Yeah.
If you go in the backwater in July, you'll see tons of juvenile spearing. They're this big. I mean, they're just like everywhere. And then by the end of July, they're a little bit grown. And then the beginning of August, on the moon, they come out and they get into the surf. And that's when hopefully you'll get the snappers on their heels. But what I found in the last 10 years or so, the snappers are coming later. I fish, it's a whole different realm. It would take me hours to explain, but I fish August a lot. August was always a big month for me because of the snapper bite. I would always pray for hot water. I wanted hot weather, hot water. Give me hot, give me hot, give me hot. And but for whatever reason, I don't know, the water temperatures are still the same. I take water temperatures all the time, but the snappers, the spearing is there, but the snappers are coming later. They don't come. They usually don't come till the end of the month. So I'm looking at that first moon in September. I think it's September 1st. That's going to be
You're already mapping it out this year, aren't you? You got it.
Oh yeah, I got it all. Yeah. When I book trips, I'm like, this is the fucking date. This is the one. This is the one you want to go with.
Come then. Yeah. Your best chance. Because just to maybe in my experience, I fish a lot of backwater estuary stuff, early, and the silver sides are in there spawning in the grass, on the highest tides of like maybe May and June. And, then you say, by July, you're starting to see the tiny ones. And by August, I mean, they're part of the story the whole year. If you can keep track of,
right.
Stay in touch with what they
pretty
are.
much the whole year.
Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting. I think you just said something that I think is one of the traits. I've done 30 podcasts and been working in this business for 30 years, and I get to talk to some great anglers, and I put you on that list. And one of the things that I noticed is, it's about focus. And you even made a comment in one of the things I listened to in the last couple of days. You said, you might see a client that you took out the next day, like at the supermarket or something, and say, hey man, that was great. And you're like, you don't even recognize them, because the whole time you're looking at you're focused on the surf and the water and what's going on, and it's
something that happens a lot to me. Like I'll take out a guy like Bill, I booked you like 4 or 5 times. I'm like, well, Johnny, I never, the only time I see him, it might be a night trip. So I shake his hand, I look at him in the truck, I'm rigging up his stuff or my stuff. And then it's constantly, you're in the water, you're never looking at the guy, or even in the daytime, I'm always looking at the water. I tell my customers, like, when you're walking the beach or whatever you're doing, you should never take your eyes off the water, because it's that one little piece of bait that sprays up that could be, what's up lies beneath that bait could be something special. So I try not to take my eyes off the water, especially in the fall,
Right.
The fall.
Well, but I would say the things one of the couple of traits that I'm really aware of in talking to these different people over time is they keep a log. They never take their eyes off the water, like you're saying. Their focus and their what's the word? Observation skills, like you're just saying, that bait moves or that part of a fishtail that you see is all part of a story, and you're taking it all in to
right. For the new guys, for people coming into it, it's, you got to get yourself disciplined for that, to that point. But, for guys like us that have been at it for a while, it's just the freaking natural thing to do. It's like, I'm not thinking, well, I got to focus, it's just,
that's
that's what I do. It's, even when I look at structure now, I remember when I was a kid looking at structure, I'm like, how do you read the beach? How do people do this? Now it's just like, I can see it in a second, I'm like, that looks good, might be good on this, I start doing a little research on the area, and I can pretty much figure it out. Well, it always takes time to figure it out, but you can break your learning.
You get a theory and then you go test it.
Right.
Yeah. The I was a kid. I was 12, and I had a little silver chrome creek chub popper, and I went to the beach near my grandparents' house, and it was rocky beach, pounding waves. It had been blowing for
the striper swiper.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, well, nice job. And but I just threw a fuck it cast, because I'm there. I had no real. It was just a big white mess, and here's this chrome plug in this frothing white water in this rather small, 18-inch stripe or whatever. Found it, and how did all that happen? Locate it. I didn't even see it, because to me, a human, it looks like it would reflect all the white around it.
Right.
Striper, maybe it was something dense, but to be aware that it was even there blew my mind. Their senses, how they operate in
right.
water, in white water. But I also, you made me think of the video that you did that helped me today. You were talking about it was your kids at the beach. Remember this? And you turned it into a video.
Oh, yeah. The greatest day fishing of my life, or something like that.
Yes. But what was great about it was your kids were there, and you showed, here's one cut. And then you showed the bar itself, and your kids were on it, and somebody was fishing over here. And then the other bar where it sort of trailed off, but then the trench between the beach. I've got a great photo. I use in my talks. Yeah. Remember this one?
Yeah.
I have a great photo that I use in my talks about structure. That's the length of Napatree Beach, and you can see the bar and the trough, and then later you can see stripers moving through that trough. And then your point was, you get to the edge of that trough where that trough meets the next cut. You can't even stand in there. It's 6 feet tall. It's deeper than that, and it's going out. And all the bait that's been sloshed around or in that trough or was on the bar is going to have to get carried. Really, it's probably not without much say.
Right. That's the undertow. It's the cut. It's the undertow.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I would have had it for the Connecticut show, because I got a really, really good video of a trough, and it's like rainy, and you can just see it just cruising out, deep water. There's a trough, and then the cut is just deep water just coming out. And when you find that on a sand beach, it's usually gold.
How do you go at it? How do you approach that? You see the structure, but how do you even start plug selection for that?
Well, it depends on time of year and what bait's around. You can't go wrong no matter what time of year with a bucktail. But maybe the snappers are around. I might throw a darter, or maybe it's too windy and I got a big wind in my face. I can't throw the darter, so I might switch up to a bottle plug if that's the thick bait. But if it's like really thin, like we were on to a bite in Montauk, and I go there, I see these guys catching fish. I'm throwing needlefish, I'm throwing bottle plugs, I'm throwing darters, I'm throwing SP minnows, I'm throwing bombers, I'm throwing fucking Hellcats. I couldn't catch these guys one after another. And it was the middle of the night. What the hell are they using? So then I went back to my truck and I got my binoculars, because I got these good binoculars that you can see at night with. So I'm like, they're using bucktails. So I come to find out that the fish were on sand fleas.
Oh, wow.
And that's the only thing. You'd have to drag your bucktail along the bottom, and as soon as you did that, it was like every cast, but they wouldn't hit anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But that was that was a big example. I can't really explain it, but there was a big trough It was a big bar, and there's a big deep trough in
Right on
between
the
where
beach.
we were standing and the beach. So
And so you have a trough and a bar, and then a cut, which would be between two bars, right? And the water's going to run out. How do you? Because my feeling would be the bait isn't swimming against that current; it's swimming with it, right? I mean, because it's a pretty good, healthy.
yeah, probably swimming with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you?
Who knows? But
Yeah. So
theoretically.
yeah. So you would make a cast to the other end and fish it back, or would
So
you
if the,
fish across it, or
if
how
this
do
is
you
the
approach
beach
that?
and say this is the beach and the bar's out here,
Yeah.
and I can like in that scenario I just explained, you
Mhm.
could reach the bar. Like I would, what's happening is the fish will probably be here facing into this bar, right? And all the shit, like in this case, sand fleas would be getting washed off, so they'd be facing in. So as soon as
Ah,
you drop your bucktail over that bar, you could feel the bar, and as soon as you
you're on the
dropped it
front
over the
side of it.
bar,
Yeah.
bam, that's when you get smacked. I had another same situation, a spearing bite I was on last year, same situation, and well, you're throwing needlefish because needlefish is a great imitation
Mhm.
of spearing as well. Sand eels too, but spearing as well, especially these thinner ones.
Mhm.
So
So when the wave breaks over the bar, that's disruptive, and that would knock out the sand fleas and stuff like that. But your point is the bass are feeding on the front of the bar, facing the ocean,
yeah,
not on
yeah,
the
just facing.
outside.
They're
Yeah,
facing in because everything's
yeah,
getting
got it.
flushed this way, so
Yeah,
they're facing in.
yeah,
You know, they're not like I'm here, but they're not necessarily in the middle here too much. I mean, you might pick some bass, but as soon as that you drop that bucktail, you either get a hit or a fish.
yeah.
You know, that's a situation time and time again that happens.
You
You
know,
know,
you
if you
think,
can hit it.
mhm.
You know, some people that fish sand beaches, they're afraid of I don't know if they're afraid, but they don't like wade out. You know, they just fish on the freaking sand beaches. But a lot of these bars, I mean, you got to be careful, but a lot of these bars, you can cross the trough
Right.
if you
Up, up,
can,
up. Yeah,
up on the bar, and then you can fish the lip of another bar out, or you can fish the lip of that bar, just cast
right.
parallel to the to the bar, you know. But you gotta, you know, you gotta be willing to do that. I mean, you gotta be willing to wade in water this high,
Yeah.
you know, and you know, you gotta know the tide because if there's incoming tide, you get stuck out there, possibly washed out.
It's easier to fish that cut too, to fish across it
Yeah,
more,
yeah.
and the
Come if
fish
there's
the
a
length of.
right, if there's a cut there, you know, you put your plug or bucktail, whatever you're gonna throw for whatever reason, right into the cut, and the cut may be moving. So what happens is the water comes in, fills up the trough, and it moves out this like for people who don't understand,
Yeah.
moves out like it's almost like a river that goes out,
Mhm.
right? And sometimes the river will move this way, and sometimes the river will move that way, and you're going to position yourself on whichever way the river is moving. You
Got it.
know, that's the cut.
Yeah.
So if you can wade out to a bar and you can position yourself, the river's moving, the cut is moving this way. You want to be on the right side
Yeah.
or the left side if it's moving the other
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Gotcha.
You know,
Gotcha. Yeah, that's the sand beach stuff. One of the things that I took away from the Connecticut talk, and you did a great job, like I said, without slides, but you already kind of sort of mentioned it today. But I do a talk at clubs about edges, or transition from rock to sand or deep to shallow, or the different transitions. But you described one that I hadn't really thought about very much, and that's the edge that's created when you have a point, as you said a little bit earlier, and then the water moves off that edge of that point into coves. And that
right.
transition, can you talk about that? That was really an interesting kind of take on
Well,
how to position yourself and all, how to think about
yeah,
it.
well, I mean, I fish edges a lot,
Yeah.
so it's hard to explain without like diagrams, but
Sorry.
uh, but if you have a reef, you
Yep.
have, can I use this? So this is a great way to carry batteries, by the way.
Yeah,
Soap dish.
there you go.
So
Yeah.
here's your point, right? Say this is a big rocky point, and say this is like 300 yards of rocks and shit. And
Mhm.
on this side you have a cove, and on this side you have a cove, right?
Yep.
So when the waves hit this, what's going to happen is it's going to naturally drain out of this side and drain out of that side. So no matter what, the water on this side is going to be moving. Even if you have incoming current, say moving this way, the
Yeah.
water in tight is going to be moving this way.
Yeah.
And the water in tight here is going to be moving this way.
Yeah.
Even though the current may be going out the opposite direction.
Right.
So in that case, I
That's
just,
a micro
where
thing. Yeah.
if I'm learning a new area, say, I take that in consideration, and I'm like, well, if I want to fish this edge right here, and this is, say, outgoing water moving that way, I probably want to be there on the outgoing water, because that's the shit in tight here is just it's gonna be increased, and more stuff is gonna get pushed off the reef that way, instead of if it's moving this way and it's the opposite direction. You know what I mean?
Got it.
So another thing that you should do is, when you're looking at a reef, is go out and pick up rocks and stuff. See if it's a healthy reef. If it's a healthy reef, there's going to be all kinds of stuff underneath the rocks. Little crabs, worms, whatever.
And what do you suppose makes one healthy and one not? You noticed is that, because I mean, to me, I think of boulder fields and points, reefs, the hard structure is having.
I think it might be
at the time.
I think it might be the area. Maybe you're close to the city and you got you got shit dumped there or something, and it's just, you go out there, it's just nothing. There's nothing under the rocks, or maybe for whatever reason, who knows what, this is not maybe it's a healthy reef, but there's nothing underneath the rocks.
Gotcha.
In Montauk, pretty much every reef has shit underneath the rocks.
Yeah, well, from this, you can see them all right here, all these points. And that's when that idea of a different type of edge, at least that I thought of before you presented, was the idea it hits a point and it spills into coves.
Right.
If the current is going the same direction as the spill, you're going to have more current force energy there to disrupt bait and create a fishing opportunity.
Right, exactly. It's just more energy to push that shit out. And that's when you get into your tides, and you tweak your tides. Do I want to be there? And it's a lot of experience too. A lot of times there's a window, it's a 20-minute window, half-hour window, an hour window, depending, and I took out this guy, right, and now he's he's a Montauk regular. He's a very hardcore fisherman, but I used to take him out all the time. He always says, Bill, remember we were out one night and I caught like a 35-pound fish, and you left right after that. Like, we made another couple casts and we left. I'm like, that's because it's literally that spot that we were in is a 10 friggin' minute window. It was August. And what happens is you have to be there for that spot right after slack, when the tide starts moving out, right? And you got like 10 minutes, like 15, 20 minutes, half hour. If you wait too long, it just becomes just bluefish, because those big bass aren't just going to lay there, I guess. I don't know if they're competing with the bluefish. I don't know if it's too much work because the water's hot because it's August, but that was the time. And then he said, and we got bigger fish throughout that night, but then we got scared by lightning. He always talks about that night, but literally 10-minute window in that spot. Certain areas are like that.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, the other anglers that I've discussed on this podcast with have made references to really windows that you think are pretty darn tight, but
sometimes
right. But I mean, it's a pattern you learn over time. Right. I need to be here now.
Right.
Because
it depends on the spot and the current and how it relates to the structure. Sure. Some people say, "Oh, you got to be there at slack tide. You got to be there at low out. Southwest." To me, that's all bullshit, because everything's related to the spot that you're fishing. And this spot may be good on the high out. There might be a 10-minute window with southwest winds. 40 yards down the beach might be, northeast winds with, first of the incoming. Who knows? Depends. It depends on how it's set up.
So, as that reflects an awful lot of experience, right? You've been going to Montauk since, what was it, 2002 or something? I mean, you've been going there.
Oh, I've been going there since '83.
There you go. So
2002.
Yeah.
I've been guiding out there since '96, I want to say. So I've been guiding since 96, but I've been fishing there since 82.
Got it. Got it.
You know,
Grew up on Long Island?
mostly. We moved from Ohio to Long Island when I was 13, I think.
Yeah. And
13.
what kind of drive do you have to get to Montauk? It is the end, you know?
Oh, from where I live now, it's an hour and 15.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
I know you got to do it at the end of the night coming home too. That's
every night almost.
That's the hardest part.
Like 5 nights a week, I guess, whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
More in the fall.
Yeah.
In the fall, I'm staying in my truck a lot, so I'm doing doubles.
Yeah.
So I don't do doubles in the spring or the summer, just the fall.
Yeah. That was one of the questions I was going to ask you as a guide. What's the thought process to making a move from one location to another or changing lures? Because your client is trying to learn the whole time. You know what I mean? They're watching your every move, every.
Well, I got a million scenarios going on in my head, you know, and like I'll have, if I'm taking out 2 guys, say, and I'm always, not always, but I'm almost always at a spot where I think the wind and the tide and everything is right for this spot. That's why we're here, right? So, you know, if we're doing, say we do 10 casts each, I might move after 10 casts each. That's because that's 3 guys, 30 casts.
Yeah.
In a spot that I feel should be holding fish at this time.
Right.
So then I'm like, well, let's freaking move, you know? And what I usually do is as far as presentation goes, I give my customers what I think color and profile is going to work best. And I just fuck around with everything else, you know? So experiment. So maybe I'll find something that, you know, wow, you know, they're supposed to be on this green needlefish, but I'm throwing a black and gold darter. They're on the freaking darters. Maybe there's something out there. Then I'll switch you up. You know, even eeling, I do these trophy trips where we eel, and it's very hard to eel now because of the sharks. But you know, I've had nights where they wouldn't touch the fucking eel. You know, I'm throwing eels, and I start banging them on darters because they're so focused on the snappers. You know, that time of year in the summertime, you know, in August, they're really up on those snappers, and sometimes they won't touch the eel, believe it or not. And you throw a darter and they'll just hammer it. You know, I've had many situations like that.
You've mentioned at least 8 different styles of lure, if you include the eel and the bucktail, right? And then, you know, darters and needlefish and SPs and all the other things you mentioned already. Do you focus much on color, or is it more on profile? Or
I focus on both because I'm looking for whatever I think is going to work best.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not too crazy about color, but you know, over the years, there was a time when color, you know, when I was a kid. And then there was a time where, fuck that, color doesn't matter. I thought I'd just throw the profile, you know, it's bullshit, you know. Now, and by the way, my friend says you're at best, you're at your prime fishing when you're in your 50s, because you know a lot of shit, and you can still do the things that you normally can do. Right. I'm coming out of my 50s, but I'm still there. I like to think I'm still there. Yeah. So you know, so I'm using colors that I feel that is going to present best and for them. And you know, it
seems to me though, it's your lure and color choice obviously is based on the bait you expect to have or the profile you expect that fish to see. You know, that would you know is
and the light conditions. Is it natural light? Is it bridge light? Is it, you know, is it cloudy? Is it, you know, dark, rainy? You know, some nights you literally almost can't see in front of your face. Like really windy, rainy night. God, those are
you know, so when you think about what makes you consistently successful, I mean, 25 years and you know, certainly plenty of days that didn't work out the way, or the fish weren't where you thought they would have been there. What are the couple of traits that you think are strengths of yours that bring this consistent success?
Traits of mine. I
would have said one of them isn't preparation. You said you do everything in your truck. You know, it's not
right. Well, no, it's preparation. You know, Everything's working good. Everything I throw has good hooks,
Yeah.
freaking fresh leader. My reels work. My rods are good. That is all because I don't want to.
Dialed.
I don't want it screwed up because or miss something because of my equipment failure.
Yeah.
Even though my shit's all over the place all the time, the stuff I use is on point. It's got to be on point, especially the way I fish, in Montauk, reels underwater, get beat up by rocks, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think, for me, it's just, I don't know. For me, it's just, I'm like obsessed. That's the only thing I can describe. I, even at my age, my mother says to me before she passed away, she goes, do you still love it, Billy? Do you still love it? As she's talking about fishing and guiding. And I go,
She's watched you do it your whole life.
Just look, I go, yeah. And she goes, well, if you won the lottery right now and you could quit guiding and you could just like go to Florida and fish, is that what you would do? I go, no, I think I would still guide and do what I do now. She goes, then you truly love it. So then it's for me, I guess it's that love of fishing. I mean, I love guiding too, but I think you got to have that passion.
Yeah.
You're just in there because you want to flex your muscles and shit. You're not going to last long.
Right.
You just want to flex your muscles and get yourself on YouTube or something. I mean,
well,
okay.
I think that passion is, manifests as curiosity. You know what I mean? Like you can't not look at the water. Your kids are swimming and you see this.
Right. It's true. It's hunting, right? It's hunting. And anything with I love stuff, anything like that's hunting. Even the act of hunting, even though I don't hunt any longer.
Yeah.
But I hunt arrowheads now. I fucking love hunting arrowheads, and native artifacts. It's just a cool little hobby on the side. And I watch shows like Gold Rush and anything they're hunting, hunting for whatever artifacts, gold. I love stuff like that, and that's what striped bass is. It's hunting.
Yeah, you're putting a story together too. You know what I mean? You're taking what you can observe and what and what you might know about spearing or snapper blues and whatever else, all coming together to create a plan. And you
got to keep a freaking log. I mean, log is. I mean, that one of the keys to success is long-term success is keeping a good log.
Yeah.
And my log happens to be an open book. It's on the Surf Rats Bowl, so it's like an open book. Everybody can read it.
What are the like the kind of things you regularly note in your log? I mean, I could make some guesses, but what do you include in every kind of that you think of as relevant? Is it different every time, or is it I always have?
It's typical. It's wind, southwest, northwest, location. I don't give the exact location, but I'll say north side. I know where I'm at, but north side. I give the time. 12. This was 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. or whatever it is. And observations, what bait was around. Maybe why water temperature sometimes, cloudy, all that stuff. And then, with it, I always include, because this is something that you're going to read, you could go back and like the birth of my kids, are in my logs. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff, baseball tournaments, my girl's first time, Callie's first time fishing. That's all should be in your log, because you can always go back and you can read. You're like, holy shit, it's right here. It's like having your life in your fishing log, really.
My grandfather kept a log, 20 years, little notations and some cryptic stuff. You had to make some guesses as to what he was actually talking about. It wasn't detailed like you described, but it was helpful. It ended up telling me you need to go fishing for stripers in June. I mean, it wasn't that helpful, but it was great to be there with him. You know what I mean? To it's to reflect on some of what his observations were. He'd have bird comments in there too. The various birds he saw at the time of year and that kind of thing. It's cool. It's cool. You're absolutely right. I know you do a talk called Magic Minutes. What are the couple things you hit on in that? I think you mentioned a couple that go into your log, like wind and tide and
I'm doing that. I've done that twice now. I did it at Connecticut. I did it, I think, last year once, and I'm doing it again next week at what is it? I always forget the name of the school. Ward Melville. Ward Melville. So I'll be at Ward Melville. I'm doing it this weekend as well. So it's it kind of covers a lot of what I think about, because I say magic minutes because a lot of times it's not the magic hour. It's really, those windows can be, like I said before, can be like 10 minutes. So, and I try to help people understand biology, bait migrations, and break their learning curve and go over spots, videos of spots and pictures of spots, and break their learning curve so they can take that spot because it's probably similar to something that they have in their own home waters
and apply it at home.
Yeah, right. Take that, and then you can start thinking about, what you're doing to break it down. And not everybody, but there's a lot of people like me. You have a wife, you have kids, you have a job, you don't have time. You want to take that time. Well, the fish should be there at the last 2 hours, the outgoing tide with this wind. I got a spot for that. You know what I mean? And to get, or you go on vacation, you want to make use of your time, hopefully they'll take what I'm giving and relate it to what they're going to do. That's the whole goal.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Hopefully they don't think I'm full of shit.
Yeah. When you're planning a trip a day, it sure sounds like on one hand, you have all this wealth of knowledge around bait and all spots and, in windows. Where does the variable of wind come in? Because the other things are known. You know this about bait for the most part. You know this about water temperature, time of year for the most part. Those are things that are tied. Can be understood. But the wind in a given day is a variable. Will you change your plan?
Yeah, wind is everything, man. That's
what I'm getting at.
So that's wind and tide. Yep. I'll change whatever I'm doing based on the wind. And, I'll give you a quick example.
Yeah, please.
So like, I'll just go like sand eel bite's a great example. Like the early June sand eel bite, we have sand eels. They're only about this big, right? So say this is the beach and this is facing north, right? This is the beach. I'm standing here and this is facing north. So what you want, the outgoing tide, say, is moving this way.
Yep.
Right? So outgoing tide, that's facing north. So in that situation, what you would want is a southwest wind. A southwest wind would be at your left ear, back left ear. So southwest is keep the south and the southwest keeps the water flat, and then the west and the southwest increases the outgoing current. So by keeping the water flat, it enables the little freaking sand eels to hold tight to the beach.
Gotcha.
But the west and southwest increases the outgoing current, thereby lifting up the sand eels at the same time. So the stripers will come in and feed off that in tight when that happens. However, if you get
that's awesome.
A hard north wind, anything out of the fucking, say you get a hard northwest is be at my left eye, and it's like 30 knots. Those sand eels are not going to be able to hold tight there, and they're going to go deep.
Right.
And it could, and where I fish in Montauk, it could, screw up the bite for the whole spring if it's a sustained northwest wind or north winds hard because they go deep. Sometimes they don't come back. However, that same wind in the fall in that same spot, say you get a hard northwest is gold. Because the north, not north, because north is doing nothing. It's just directly in your face. Right. Northwest is at your left eye. So north is pushing everything in, and the west and the northwest is increasing the outgoing current. So at that time of year, you have different baits. You have bigger baits. Say we talked about before, the juvie weakfish bite. You get those northwest and that moon, it can be freaking gold. However, in the spring, it's no good.
Got it. Yeah. No, because I was wondering that as you have such a uh, vast amount of experience to refer to. You probably I'm still working to have a couple of spots for a couple of different wind directions, and then learn them right in Newport, and but to have as much time on the water as you do, I think you'd be have plenty of spots to think about. But what would change the day of decision? You say wind is the one. Okay. The
Hundreds of spots in Montauk.
Yeah, I bet.
Hundreds I'll stop my truck
this blew me
sometimes.
away.
Just thinking.
This is really something. It is,
and that's not, that's just like if you look at Kings, there's, let's see, let me think about, if you look at Kings, there's one, two, three, four.
I'm looking
five,
for Kings.
6, 7. Just in Kings, just that point.
Yeah.
There's 7 different tides I like to fish. Just that one little area.
Wow.
Because I mean, obviously you can catch them on any tide, but I like to tweak it. I'll go one spot, and I'll hit different tides.
I've fished the like you say, the tourist cove.
Turtle Cove, yeah.
And the other side of the light.
Turtle Cove is good, man.
What are the
Scott's?
Yeah.
Scott's Hole.
But I've only had two nights there, period. But it's just an awesome place. And I had and I walked it. You could see it's rugged and everything else. But I just didn't have any idea that there was this. It was this extensive till you put this map and this chart in my hand.
Yeah.
I was like, damn. And you could just see why the points, the wind direction. You get to the north. I mean, I fished the north side for albies in the fall when that north wind puts the bait right on the beach, and the albies are right there too on the north side of Orient. But still, the idea of it, all that ground to cover.
Right.
It's really a super fishy spot. What other fish are on your to-do list? Is it beginning and ended striped bass? Are you a steelhead guy or a largemouth bass guy? Or
well, I grew up on walleye and catfish. I always was into catfish. So when I came from Ohio to here, I mean, catfish was a night game. I was just a kid. We'd make a big fire, and my cousin lived out in the sticks, so we built this big live well. It was pretty big, and made out of wood and wire, and we put the catfish. We'd fish until we fill up the live well, and then throw them back. I mean, we'd sleep in the tents. There'd be snakes, timber snakes, all kinds of friggin' snakes all over the place. There's all kinds of stories with dogs and snakes. Dogs would eat snakes, but when we moved to New York, it was like a natural thing. I just and I was largemouth bass fishing too. So I always did freshwater. So for me, it was just natural. Now it's like, I used to fish Lilco all year. I don't know if you know the stack. Well, now it's what's the lighting? PSEG. The stacks over there, because it would hot water flow. Now it's not as productive it was then, but I would fish there 5 fucking days a week. I can't even look at that place anymore. 5 days a week, all winter long.
Yeah.
And that's what I would do, because I don't know, man. I caught my first striped bass, and it was just like,
that's it.
Nothing I've caught was, I can't find anything that really compares to it.
Great.
So, and then in winter, I just go skiing now, and I spend time with the family, because during the season, I'm away a lot.
Yeah.
I'm away. I work all day and work all night.
Yeah.
So.
What are 5 things, or what are a couple things outside of fishing that made Montauk special?
Outside of fishing, well, I could say it used to be the town. The town used to be a very special place. People would walk around with their fishing boots on. It was just a fishing village. What do they say? Montauk is a drinking village with a fishing problem.
Yeah.
Right. But that's no more. I mean, now it's a bunch of fucking yuppies from the city who I hate every single one of them. No, that's not true.
But no, it's all
But
these
I'm just,
places.
it just completely changed.
Agreed.
It's
Totally.
not what it's not what it once was. It's just
Parts of the
a
Cape that I know are the same,
vibe,
have been changed too,
but it still has that ruggedness. You can get away from that. And once you're out on the surf, I mean, especially in the spring, summer, there's nobody out there.
Mhm.
In the fall, you see people, but not even like it used to be.
Right.
So, what else makes Montauk special? Just the local people,
Yeah.
the local people
I know
that,
it's a big
you
parking
meet.
lot scene there, right?
Blade and Salt Pizza makes it special for me.
What was it called?
Blade and Salt.
That's the
Blade
name
and
of the
Salt
place?
Pizza. Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy Rich owns it. I used to fish with him all the time.
Huh.
And now he owns, a restaurant out there. So I always go there. His wife makes me soup, and she makes homemade apple pie in her house and brings it to the restaurant. I'm like, oh man, give me some of that.
Well, that's, like I say, there's, there's people, a lot of people, you ask people why they fish and you'll get 10 people, you'll get, hell, 12 different reasons. It's not even, people fish for a
Right.
bunch of reasons, after the fish, you know what I mean?
No, it's a weird place. You got Camp Hero, seen some weird shit out there, through the years. And, it's just, not nobody's skishing there because of the sharks anymore.
Yeah.
But there's still guys swimming out to rocks, way out. I don't do that though. I'm not. Everybody's like, they book me. Like, am I gonna have to swim? I'm like, no, just wear your waders, man.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
all you need.
Well, I know you're back in the gym, right? You mentioned we spoke earlier in the week.
Yeah, I've been. I ran
Physically
hills
hard.
actually.
Yeah.
Yes, my age, man. I cannot break. I'm trying to do cardio,
Yeah.
and we're running these hills like they're on the North Shore of Long Island, and it's right along the water, and it's basically bluffs, and they go like this, and I'm running them, and there's just the first one I cannot break myself with almost throwing up every time I do it. I'm like, one of these days I'm going to do it and not, almost pass out every time. I just, tonight we ran it and I was like, oh my God, last night I ran, I was okay. But then I'm doing, I'm doing a lot of legs every 4 days.
Yeah.
I'm trying to strengthen up my arms because when you get older, you lose shit.
Yeah.
I can't continue to guide if I'm not, up to par.
Yeah.
I look like a fat guy. I am a fat guy, but I'm in pretty decent shape.
Yeah. Well, Montauk will do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all the rocks, all the weighting, the current.
You gotta stay heavy for the rocks. When you get hit by a wave, you gotta stay on the rocks. You tend to not get knocked back more.
Well, let's change gears here for a second. First, I'd let people know this podcast is brought to you by the Saltwater Edge and saltwateredge.com. And your purchases help pay for the production costs associated with it. Saltwater Edge exists to help you make the most of your time on the water. So we're going to change gears.
And thank you, Saltwater Edge, by the way, for sponsoring Surf Rats Ball tournament last year and hopefully this year.
Yep, absolutely.
Wicked, they gave us a great bag last year.
Yep, we'll do that, or we'll figure out something else, whatever works for you guys.
And we raised like what did we raise last year? I think like 12,000. The year before we raised almost 15. The goal is always 15.
Well, Bill, I had no idea. Surf Rats Ball was the name of your website. I had no idea about the tournament. I'd heard of it, but I figured it was a Montauk thing. I didn't realize where it was going. I mean, it's remarkable, man. I wanted to say personally, I was very impressed by because I know how to make shit happen, like events and things like that. It's thankless and it's hard. And you probably get a lot of advice on how you can do it better. But I would tell you, most of the people giving you advice can't carry your job.
I hate the advice. You know what I hate? People are giving you advice, like people that are in the tournament are giving you advice when the tournament's going. The tournament's already going. The rules are the rules. Shut up and go fishing.
Yes.
Or you get, oh man, I caught this fish, but it doesn't abide by the rules. If it's obviously, I believe you caught the fish, everything's good, I know you or whatever, but rules are gotta be within the rules.
Yeah.
The rules are the rules. And I'm very strict with the rules.
Well, it's the idea of, and it's been over a decade, you said, huh?
And I think this is our 19th year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was a surf. It was the first catch and release tournament that I know of. And I wanted to show the purpose of doing it originally was to show people that a catch and release tournament could be done, because I was always in the CNR. A
Yep.
catch and release tournament could be done with surf fishing.
Yep.
And and we did it. And now I'm really happy to say that there's a lot of other surf fishing tournaments that followed that lead. And
Yep.
now most of them, or not all of them, are catch and release. I'm not saying that's all because of the Surf Rats Ball tournament, but I
But
think it
someone
had
had
a
to go first.
really, really great influence.
Yeah.
You know,
Good for
you
you.
know,
And what, what kind of money? I mean, if you've been doing it, shooting for 15 grand, I've been doing it for 19 years, and you've raised a shit ton of money for kids with cancer and their families. That's really,
probably close to 100, if not 100 or more,
yeah,
100,000. Yeah, I'm sure something like that.
great job.
Got to be close. Thanks,
Great
thanks.
job. Changing gears. So what would be, I'm looking for 2 tips that you would give somebody on their surf casting journey. And I imagine you might say, well, here are 2 tips that I end up giving to most of my clients. Or, what are 2 things that you get asked a lot, that you might share with somebody who's, intent on becoming a better surf caster? What are a couple things that, hey, you got to be ready to do this and this?
Well, I would say, I mean, if I tell people, if you're going to equipment, if you're going to get into the sport, if you're definitely going to get into the sport and you have enough money, why not buy good equipment?
Mm-hmm.
Because why would you want to buy something that's going to last you a week? Why not buy something that you're going to be happy with and it's going to last you a lifetime?
Right.
I would say that's, but I get it. When I was young, I didn't have any money. So if you don't have the money, you can't buy the best of the best. But if you can buy the best of the best, why not? I mean, like I live on an island. If you live on an island or next to water and you plan on being the rest of your life, why not? Why not get a $400 or $500 rod and a $500 reel? If that's what it's gonna. Not that you may not need that, but shit,
we think about it. We think about it at Saltwater Edge, whether it's surf or fly or inshore or whatever the topic. We try to do good, better, best. Because it's not very. We want to be there to help you support your passion. And having the best stuff that for the task
that you can buy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So the first, good equipment. What's another tip you'd give somebody who wants to commit to this?
Don't chase reports. Everybody wants to chase reports these days. Avoid that like the plague, because you're not going to be a better fisherman by chasing reports. Yes, you may get into fish, but if you're not putting in the time and you're not learning your areas or areas that you want to fish, you just chase because it's on the freaking internet. You're going to be at a disadvantage, and you probably won't last long either.
Because you're not building knowledge, right? You're running there. You need to put some time in.
I tell people, take one spot. I tell my customers who are just starting out, I'm like, take one spot in your area. Find, I say, find what we've been talking about. Find the point, cut, whatever it is, and think about that and start fishing every freaking tide and every wind that you can possibly fish, and then keep a log on that. And then you'll see through that, you're going to see bait migrations, throughout the year. You'll understand that spot more, and that's going to help you understand the next spot that you go to. It's going to build. And pretty soon you're just going to be like, it's going to hit you, and everything's going to become natural to you.
Yep. And like you said early on, the idea of just never take your eyes off the water. Once you know what you're looking at, it becomes more obvious, right? You look at the beach now and you go, probably that looks pretty good. I need to put a little time in here.
Right. Or even keeping your eyes on the water, just looking for, nervous water, bait flickering, anything.
Yeah.
Maybe just a swirl, fish coming up, anything.
Yeah.
One time I'm fishing with this woman. She's probably my age now, but I was younger. She was older, probably my age. So it was her first time surf casting. It was a 5 a.m. charter we started, and she had no idea, how to cast or anything like that. So I'm teaching her in the dark how to cast. So then we go to the spot, and we're there for an hour, nothing there. So this is in Montauk. We start walking away, and it's like 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, this looks so fishy. Let me look back. One more look. And I see fish busting on the shore. Like, holy shit, there's fish where we were just standing, So then we hightail it back. And sure enough, you know what Lafayette are?
No.
Lafayette, Spot. There's Spot, Spot?
Yeah, okay.
Spot. Yeah. So Spot had come in, and big bass were on the spot, and right at her feet, she throws a metal lip. First cast, 35 pounds. Like, wow. 10 feet in front of her. We bring it in. She's like, her name was Marianne. I'm like, she goes, was that a big fish? Is that a really big fish? I go, Marianne, most people don't catch that in a lifetime.
Yeah.
So it was just that, I look back, keep my eyes on the water, that is important. You see that like little tweak, you see one fish pop up, could be a million underneath them.
Yep. So don't chase reports. I just thinking of Marianne. What a thrill that must have been.
Oh my God, she was ecstatic.
One of the other things I like to ask are, what are two lures you would tell someone to you find to be most versatile, maybe, or if I was down to 2 lures, what would they be?
It's never down to 2 lures.
Yeah.
It's always, I would say, a lot of people don't throw darters. Yeah. I would say learn the F out of the darters. Yeah. Fish them. This is this is a super strike darter, but there's a lot you can do with this.
That's that translucent green, right?
Blue, green, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's see-through. Yeah.
And you can, in the daytime, just doing this with your rod hard, you bam, bam, bam. You can make it do that. You can make it go slow. It's way more versatile than people let on it to be. I would say, learn. And I remember telling my customers, like, I cannot catch any big fish. Like, you got to start throwing darters. And then he started throwing darters to catch a big fish. It is a big fish catcher, man. I tell you, I've caught so many big fish on a freaking darter. It's unbelievable, And, you got to learn the bucktail, too. You got to learn all your plugs eventually. You're going to have to learn the needlefish, tweaking SP minnows and bombers. And if you can get your hand on Hellcats, and I'm just looking around what I got here, all of them, all metal lips,
There are a lot of lure modifications on the YouTube channel, I imagine, on Surf Rat's Ball as well.
Yeah, we do a lot of lure modifications. Here's one right here. This is a bomber. This is not how I'm rigging it up. So, but
I'm looking at it, that belly.
No, there's no hook in the back,
mm-hmm.
A flag in the back, and then
that's a Mustad too, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a Mustad 5X. It's probably 205X. But see, this is how I was experimenting. This is a split ring, barrel swivel, hook. Problem with that is you got to cut the hook, right. And it really has a lot of swing. I don't like that much swing. So what I did was, now I just put 2 split rings here, and it works great. Mm-hmm. 2 split rings and then the hook, and nothing in the rear.
If you don't have a hook in the back, are you thinking about torque, or what's the reason to?
Well, if you have the hook in the back, what happens is they get leverage.
Right.
They get leverage, and then they'll pop the hook,
mm-hmm.
especially a big fish. Using this method,
yeah,
they hardly ever pop the hook. I've only been doing it like this for the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. And last year I just committed to it fully, and it was the greatest thing I did. However, I don't like that method for, like, if you're going to back bays and you're going schoolies, you're gonna miss more fish than you catch. I mean, you just miss fish constantly.
Is the second split ring also to reduce the leverage? Is that what the second?
Yeah, 2 split rings. And 2 split rings instead of what I got here. Like, I mean, I'll use this, obviously, it's ready to go. but two split rings instead of a split ring and barrel swivel. Split ring,
Gotcha.
barrel swivel hook here.
Yeah, yeah.
I just like the two split rings. It's easier, and you don't have to cut the hook.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, those are the two answers I expected from you. Darter and bucktail. The bucktail is universal, but the darter, you really you talked about all the different ways you can fish it. You mentioned two, that hard jerk and then slow. And would you just suggest that people experiment, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people just don't fish it. I can't feel it because it's not like with a darter, you're not going to feel that. It's basically you're feeling tension in your line.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say, "Oh, this darter you can feel." Not too many darters. Maybe a 3 ounce, like the old 3 ounce Gibbs, you can definitely feel. But most darters, you're not going to feel them. But they all have, if they're a good darter, they all have the zigzag. That's the common theme of the darter. And when you think about a darter going like this, see, I'm going screen to screen, edge to edge, right? You're covering more water instead of like a like SP where it's going like this, or a bottle plug that's going straight. You're not covering as much water.
Yeah.
So that's one of the advantages. Another advantage is it's a great profile for like snappers and some larger baits. Not huge baits unless you go like 3 ounces. I mean, there's some darters that are freaking huge. Some people make, but I usually use the Super Strike.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Super Strike mostly. Do you mess around with Yuzuri or others, or is it mostly?
Mag darters, yeah, I do mag darters. I'll fish. This is a NorCal cat. I'll fish a NorCal cat.
Yeah.
I'll fish his. But I would say 90% of the time I'm fishing the Super Strike.
Yeah. Okay, great.
It just freaking works, and it takes a beating and it always swims.
Keeps ticking. Takes a licking and keeps on ticking.
Yeah.
So what are two great two resources that you think are helpful to you in your surf fishing? I guess one's got to be the log going back to 2002.
Yeah, keeping the log, using your own head. I mean, you are your greatest resource, really. Yeah. I mean, if you're fishing a lot, you yourself are your greatest resource that you could possibly have. Mm-hmm. There's books out there that help me. I mean, it used to be, when growing up, it was the fisherman. We call it the Bible, man. We would just read the freaking fisherman, man. The fisherman. Fred Galifaro and all those guys writing articles. And it was, that was like the
guys
Bible.
Our age used to read books too.
There
were good books on striped bass and stuff like that.
Still is.
Yeah.
The striped bass by Nick Karras is a very good one. Yeah. I still refer to that. I'm like, let me go look at that book. It's the striped bass by Nick Karras, or Through the Fish's Eye by Mark Sosin. That's another good one.
Yeah. Reading the Water. Guy in the Vineyard. It's that kind of gone away, I guess. But it used to be reading books was what we did. I think we're about the same age. Well, super. Well, this has been great. I got one more question for you. You have one more day to fish. This is gonna fall so flat. This has been a question that I've seen people really struggle with, and you're not gonna struggle. I know.
Maybe.
If you have one more day
if I have one more sip of bourbon, I'll struggle.
If you have one more day to fish,
I have one more what day?
One more day in your life to fish.
Oh my God.
What are you going to fish for and where? And I kind of know.
What kind of question is that?
Yeah, it's a shit question. I've seen other people really struggle because they might go, they like trout fishing and they like striped bass and they, what I mean, or steelhead, and they're all torn. I don't think you're torn at all.
I'll tell you exactly. I fished during a fucking nor'easter with the hardest rain you could possibly have on a rock in Montauk. That's what I would do.
Attaboy.
Just hopefully, and if I could, as long as I could do it. Am I in shape and all that stuff? I'm physically good in your scenario?
Yeah.
I'm not like, 95 years old. It's my last day of life. I'm good and healthy. Yeah, the rock in Montauk with a big nor'easter. That's to me, that's the most fun to fish.
Yeah.
Sometimes the big fish are there and sometimes they're not. But either way, man, when you're fishing weather like that, in water like that, the danger level is through the roof, and it just turns me on, man.
I can tell, man. You're alive. It's great. It's great. Well, that's This has been great. I want to ask you, where can people go to learn more about Bill Wetzel, and tell us a little bit more about Surfcasters Ball, the resource?
Oh, just go. I mean, the whole thing is Surf Rats Ball, surfratsball.com.
Okay.
Just go there and you can become a member. Just click on the upper right-hand side and become a member and join us. There's probably like, I don't know how many members we have at this point, probably close to 1,000 members, I guess, something like that.
Yeah.
It's $35 a year. And if you think it sucks, I'll give you your money back. But I mean, you got the tournament, you got reading, all the stuff that we discussed today is in there.
Yeah.
Plus I'm on there almost every day. I am lacking some things like tip of the week. I haven't been keeping up this year.
How many tips can there be? But you've been doing tips.
That's another thing. It's hard to think of tips. So I'm like, can you somebody send me some tips? There's so many in there right now. There's probably like 300 tips.
One of the things format wise, it's kind of a cool thing to do is open it up to like ask me anything and let them ask you, and you just hit them back with responses.
No, I do that. I do a Q&A. Like there's some weeks I do it every week. Like we'll do it on every Wednesday. I'm like Q&A in the Surf Rats Ball. And I'm trying to get that. Try to do it with Surf Rats Ball members only on the Instagram page where they can only answer, but it doesn't work, right? So it's hard to do that. So, sometimes I just go on the Instagram page in the winter and just kind of bullshit, I'm doing something I think people might be interested in, but in the Surf Rats Ball, I'll take actual questions people will, just post. I'm like, Q&A today, ask me anything. Or, there's so many, it's not only me, there's really good surfcasters on there, really good. Beyond my level,
right?
So
I just want to again call out kids need more, and I'm just thoroughly impressed by your commitment to that. I had no idea until I was prepping for this longer conversation with you that what they did, how long you've been doing it, the amount of money you've raised. Saltwater Edge is happy to help. Call anytime.
Oh, thank you.
I'm right up to that. I mean, I literally didn't know, and that kind of stuff.
You should come to next year. We have the shindig every year, so you should come. It's like a big. It's an award ceremony / barbecue, and we raffle off all the donations that we get, and it's like it's the biggest freaking raffle that you'll ever see in your life. It just goes on and on. I got to do it myself. I'm out there in the sun, and I have no voice by the end of the night. End of the day.
Yeah, well, if maybe give
free
me
food.
Maybe you can give me a job, and I can help take some part of it off your hands, because I do the same shit myself. It's not easy.
Well, Jeff the chef, he's our chef. He's always looking for help.
There you go.
He brings all the food. Everything's free. You got to buy a raffle ticket, but everything after that. And then we got ice cream, homemade ice cream. This guy. Snowflake ice cream out in Riverhead on Long Island. He brings a whole cooler. I mean, it must be like 300 ice creams in there. A whole cooler full of ice cream, and the kids go crazy. I go crazy too. I mean, I eat like 6 of them.
Well, that's awesome. I just want to make one reminder to folks. Don't forget, on April 6th, we have the Striper Kickoff, which is a parking lot full of the very best plug builders around. You can learn more about that at saltwateredge.com. Bill, thanks again. Well, awesome. And
thanks, Pete. Appreciate it.
And, we'll catch up again. I love that invite. Let me see what I can do about that. And
you'll see it. I'll advertise it all over the place, so you'll see it.
Sounds great, man. Pleasure. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye.